Alan Quinlan is with us this morning. Alan, good morning to you.
Morning, lads. How are you?
Yeah, so Munster are the best team in Europe again. All is well in the world after the weekend's performance.
Yeah, well, it was probably what we saw yesterday was encouraging and much better than we've seen the last number of weeks, and they should get credit for that. I think they were pretty relentless the way they started the game. The approach was much more open and expansive, and they executed so much better. I think that probably 15-20 minutes after half time the game was poor. Obviously Tom Young's injury didn't help that situation, and it was very unfortunate what happened to him, but I just thought their attitude was to really play, and they were pretty ruthless. And for the first time, I think as long as I can remember, there was 23 the 23 that tugged out yesterday were all Irish qualified, which was another big positive, which wasn't really mentioned. So they got a fair bit of flack in the last few weeks, and I think what we saw yesterday was what they're capable of.
Yeah, I think
so much better. One
of the points that Niamh Briggs has been making on the Red 78 podcast to you is that she's more interested in intention than execution, because at least if you're trying it, you'll get the execution right over a period of time. And she was making the case that in recent weeks there have been signs that they're trying to keep the ball alive, they're trying to go wide when the opportunity is there, they're trying these crossfield kicks in various positions that whoever feels like the opportunity is there for them are entitled to go for it. And what happens is that over a period of time everybody gets better at it, more comfortable, and then you see a performance like this.
Well, you think it does come, Ger, with continuity and selection and more games, and I think that was the biggest concern for me. Was I just think they really needed a performance yesterday for themselves. You know, they play Zebra next week, and then obviously the internationals away. There's a long break, so this was a really important game. They had a big crowd back in the stadium, and I just think for their own confidence and self-belief, it was vital that they executed much better yesterday. And you know, as Niamh was saying, it was a very valid argument to say that they have been trying, particularly since the Ulster game, when they had 14 men, they were trying to do certain things. Some of the timing, the execution wasn't great, and they're a team that need matches together. And you know, I think a lot of the passes were sticking yesterday, and the shape that they had was much better. And I just think they set their stall out from the word go. I think it was 19 or 20 phases for Conor Murray's try, and I just thought, wow, this is exactly what they're capable of, and this is how you hurt the opposition, and this is a real team effort that they're all you know, singing off the same hymn sheet, and so it was so much better yesterday. And you know, Wasps beat Toulouse last week. I did that game, and I was fearful about Wasps coming to Thomond Park, even though they have a lot of injuries. They were brilliant last week against Toulouse, and Munster deserved credit for what they did yesterday.
Alan, I wondered, in a way, have we kind of forgotten about what Munster had to go through before Christmas in terms of literally being across 3 different countries?
No, I don't think so.
But like, I'm sure that's like a huge factor, the fact that they're trying to recover from that level of, I guess, chaos, and that cohesion that's required for the style of play that people want to see. Like that's just rebuilding again, is it, or is that just giving them a free pass for what we've seen over the last couple of months?
No, it's not, and that's the word I use, the word mitigation a lot. There's reasons for certain things that happen in certain games in all sports, and you try and find reasons, and that was one of the big issues, was lack of continuity in selection. What happened to them in South Africa, not being able to train together, but lots of teams are affected like that. But particularly this group of players. I think trying to change a structure and trying to... The criticism they got on was based on what we saw, and particularly up in Connacht, not actually trying to play. And the point that Niamh is making, and other people have made, is certain things that they're trying to do in the last couple of weeks, and they kind of came off and they were so much better yesterday. And that comes with, you know, you review the match and you look at it, and different coaches highlight certain areas. So no, that hasn't been forgotten completely. I think Should it still have been better? Some of the execution, yeah, for sure. And, they won 4 out of 4. They finished third in Pool B. It's a situation that gives them a very, very tough game against Exeter. Doesn't guarantee them a home quarter final. But I think what the results have been really positive, and the reasons for, there are reasons there why the performances weren't great, but I think some of the stuff that we saw and wasn't good enough and should be better for this level of player, aside from the obvious fact that they hadn't played in a long time.
From the team that played yesterday, they actually have a load of games because of the way that the COVID restructure during the Six Nations has happened. So there is an opportunity for them to build continuity for some of that second tier of players. So nine players are going to be off for the Ireland squad during the Six Nations, but a load of players are actually going to get game time together. A little bit off Broadway, a little bit of the pressure gone. It is going to be their URC games. We would expect them to win the majority of those games, with almost irrespective of who plays. So a little bit of the pressure comes off now because of the performance yesterday, and as a result, yesterday was a big thing for them to just buy everybody a bit of time. Van Graan's going to see this season out no matter what happens at this point, and we can all hope that the beginning of the new style of Munster play is there. In terms of the out half question, that's still very much up for grabs, is it?
Yeah, it is. I was a little bit surprised. I thought they would have continued with Jack Crowley, just to continue that little bit of continuity, and I thought he was pretty bright in his performance in Cass. But to be fair, Ben Healy came in and was superb. It was a really big performance from him yesterday, and I think that argument continues on. It's a good place for him to be in, and they're 2 young players. Jake Flannery is kind of behind those 2 as well, and so yeah, Ben Healy was really good yesterday, and I think some of his big strength is he's kicking out of hand, and some of the clearances from penalties, the distance he got was phenomenal. But his overall play was really top notch, and that's a real positive for him. So I think there's obviously a lot more growth in both those players, and they're in a good place. And if you're playing that type of game where you're moving the ball and you're keeping it alive and looking for options, it's much more enjoyable for a fly half. I wouldn't envisage any fly half wants to kick the leather off the ball. There is matches that you're going to have to kick a lot in wet, windy conditions and stuff, but conditions were really good yesterday to play good rugby, and I think Ben Healy excelled at that.
Is there a world in which Munster start looking at maybe a Kieran Frawley-esque transformation for one of these guys next season? Obviously, with Dialande going, there might be a position in midfield. The qualities that they've shown over the course of the season have been exceptional. Could you see them thinking outside the box a little bit, trying to get them both on the park at some point?
I don't know. Whoever comes in as the backs coach on, I think will decide that. I think you certainly look at the footballing ability and their presence. They're 2 big fly halves. Jack Crowley's big and physical, and Ben Healy is as well. So for sure, I think it's definitely an option. If Carberry was back fit and available, would they go with one of the younger out halves and play him in another position? I don't know. But it's something that probably would be no harm to look at. Particularly all 3 of those would comfortably play as a 12 or a 13 as well, and have that kind of football and ability to slot into a number 12. So it's something that they got to look at, and I'm sure we'll know a little bit more about the coaching setup in the next week or 2. I think that hopefully will be finalised pretty soon, and it depends who comes in. But
the Declan Kidney rumours won't go away. Him as director of rugby and Roundtree as head coach. Is that realistic? Are you hearing that? Because it's been in print now in loads of different places.
Yeah, it's speculation still, but I think it's for Munster to get a director of rugby. I think that's something that was on the horizon even before Johan announced he was going. So it's probably a real life possibility. That's something that can happen. I'm not privy to the list of people who applied for the job. I know Graham Rowntree has obviously said he's very keen on it, and I'd be keen to see him get the job, I think. And they've got to bring in 2 or 3 other coaches underneath him then. But it just depends who's applied, Ger. If we had the list, we could go through that. But people probably know my thoughts on Declan Kidney, and I just think that whether he'll leave London Irish and come back to Ireland, whether he wants to at any stage, I'm not sure. But I know what he did when I was playing, and his organisational skills and his ability to look outside the box is phenomenal. And he would be brilliant if he did come back to Munster, I think.
Roundtree, obviously, like if people talk about Munster's strengths, it is the stuff that he's working on. Like, no one has ever said, oh, you can clearly see they're not good in this, and this, the various aspects of responsibility that Roundtree would have. So that would be like giving somebody who is there the continuity and the opportunity to follow on the work that he's been doing. And it would certainly make sure that everybody stays on their toes for the rest of the season as well, if he was to be announced.
Yeah, it would. And it's the continuity thing. And if Graham Rowntree gets the head job, I think the most important thing is who steers the ship here, I think. And you have quality coaches on the field. And I think you see the job that Leo Cullen has done over the years. He probably doesn't get the credit he deserves. When you have someone as exceptional as Stuart Lancaster, who's running a lot of the on-field stuff. But you need the boss to steer the ship, send out the right messages, inspire people, keep on top of people and all that kind of stuff. And Graham Rowntree is well capable of that. I'm a fan of his, and I think the players like him. And but look, it'll be interesting to see. When you're making this decision, it depends who has applied for the job and what other candidates are there. But I think he'd be a very good appointment, and bring in quality coaches underneath, and it keeps he knows the players inside out. If you bring in a new head coach, you've got to start to know guys again, and I think it'll help in that situation if it happens.
Let's talk about Connacht, because obviously they will be incredibly disappointed with the defeats that they've suffered in recent weeks, but they're through to the last 16, to the knockout stages of the Champions Cup for the first time. It's not much of a reward, a 2-legged tie against Leinster, but at the same time it's clear signs of progress. What are they feeling at the moment after the last 2 games? What's the conversations in the dressing room? Are they seeing any positives, or is it all negative?
I think that it's, first of all, it didn't make any difference to where they actually finished, because of they picked up 2 points yesterday. I think they'd be very frustrated that they didn't see out the game. It's something that they'll certainly look back on with a bit of regret. They had control again and were in a very good position, even at 31-20. Stad score a try and they get themselves right back into the game, and they've just got to learn, I suppose. And it's I think the easy thing here would be overcritical and saying it's down to game management. I think obviously it was a very good Stad side that they picked yesterday, and you just never know with the French what kind of attitude they're going to have and how much desire they have. But they look like it meant a bit to them yesterday, Stad. They had an outside chance of qualifying themselves. But it's just having that ability to close out the game and be ruthless and probably stop attacking, because I think they turned the ball over too many times in attack, and they were trying offloads, and that can be a really positive when they come off, and they scored some brilliant tries yesterday. But it's just maybe a harsh lesson again of learning when to see out a game and control the tempo. And unfortunately for the last 10 or 15 minutes, they weren't able to do that yesterday again.
They were obviously up against 14 men. The sending off was interesting. The second yellow card in particular, Wayne Barnes was saying that he looked at me and said effing hell. He then looked at me and said I got the effing ball very clearly, very much at me. Yellow card, red card is what Wayne Barnes said. Is that something you would have been able to get away with, or did you ever see anybody sail that close to the win by essentially using the F word?
I think Wayne Barnes made a correct decision. I think if you get on the wrong side of the referee, and what he did to Shane Delahunt, for me, was really cynical, and that was potentially a red card, in my opinion, on its own. And I think I think the only one I can remember, and it was against Wayne Barnes again, where you used foul language to a referee, was Dylan Hartley in the Premiership final a number of years ago, and he ended up missing out on the Lions tour to New Zealand. I never really heard players use foul language to a referee. Of course, you complain and you're in that situation about, you're legal and you're on your feet and it was the wrong decision. But I think he deserved a red card, and I'm surprised with the reaction, but he should have been just much more careful. And I'd have like the Stad players or captain didn't have any issue with it. Clearly said that what he said was out of order, and I'd never seen that before. I was surprised with his reaction, but it was an immediate reaction from Wayne Barnes. And as long as I played, I never heard anyone using kind of foul language towards a referee. Of course, I complained plenty of times myself when decisions went against you, but you've got to learn to just be much more careful with that stuff.
Were you one for the sir? Would you, or would it have been?
No, I would have just said I was on my feet. I was on my feet, and you kind of look at the referee. But as much as the red mist got me at times, and I was fired up, I never actually used any bad language to a referee like that, and it's no surprise when you get sent off. But I wouldn't have been sir. If I was running across the field, Ger, I would have been. A lot of the time, I would have kind of had the ability to be running across the field or close to the referee and say, "Look, I was on my feet there. I thought it was okay." You might gesture something with your hands or show your frustration, but you can't say anything like that. Yeah. I'd never really seen that from any players.
One last one. Ulster are kind of the direct opposite of Connacht, where they get themselves into these, we're absolutely cruising, we're 20 points up against these really great teams, and then they fall asleep for 10 minutes and make the games complete roller coasters, with the last couple of plays being a bit helter-skelter. But they're very, very, very exciting to watch. And I don't know, is there any way we can just find a role for Lowry in the team where whatever the job is, like, just get him in the team and see what happens?
There is similarities between Ulster and Connacht. Like, Connacht were brilliant yesterday in some of the tries they scored. The Jared Butler try in 60 minutes was unbelievable. And we have to say, Jared, that Connacht get into the knockout stages is brilliant, and they deserve it for the approach they have. Ulster are a little bit similar in some senses. They probably have a little bit more steel. Their scrum is better, and that was an issue for Connacht again yesterday. But Lowry was brilliant, wasn't he? James Hume, Balakoon, and they're bringing a little bit of X factor. And Lowry is kind of defying all the odds, because people would have looked at Michael Lowry for the last couple of years and said, yeah, he's incredibly talented, give him a little bit of space and he'll step you and he'll make line breaks. But I just think he's grown in confidence. He's physically able to look after himself. He's defensively sound. And you have to seriously consider options of having him, whether it's coming off the bench or starting in a team.
Yeah,
I know there's a lot of quality there. You have to. Cheslin Colby.
I was going to say, I just googled the heights. Michael Lowry height 1.7 meters. Cheslin Colby 1.71. I mean, people can do it at that height. It's not that big a deal, and he's got the same feet. I'm not saying he's the same player. I'm pumping the brakes on the hype. But who knows?
Yeah, exactly. And when you have that sort of talent, you can't overlook it. And I'm delighted. I think he deserves so much to be in the squad. He's good in the air. He's brave. He's so many qualities to his game. And it's brilliant that he's in the squad. There'll be a hesitancy to say put him into the team now because you're playing against bigger wingers or bigger back three players. But he's doing it consistently now for Ulster, and he has to be seriously looked at for Irish selection. Yeah.
All right, Alan, good stuff. We'll leave it there. We'll get more in depth on Lowry when we're talking about the back three on the depth chart this week. Thanks a million, Alan. Cheers.
Cheers, lads. Thanks.
It's Alan Quinlan there. Any mention of Leinster's 10 tries away from home, 23 tries in the last 2 games in the Heineken Cup. # Munster TV. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. I can't believe you're so Leinster biased. I can't believe you're so Munster biased. It's like, okay.
We are, though.
Which?
Both.
Well, but this guy's saying we didn't do
We're Connacht biased as well.
Ross Cahill, tempting fate. I would have preferred Bordeaux to Connacht. We need a tough game in France.
That's I see Leo Cullen's pseudonym is Rascahal. That's what they're thinking deep down in Leinster, isn't it? Like you can be that's actually, sorry, the subtext that we've all missed here this morning. Ger coming on at the top of the show being like, "Oh, Connacht aren't you great?" We've all just forgotten the context of Ger being a massive Leinster fan and the fact that you were being like, "Oh, aren't they so great?" and all that.
I'm looking forward to those two games. They're going to be good games. Genuinely good games.
I'm sure you're being very genuine.
I love Connacht. I think they're great. OTB AM brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors.